Hello there, and a very good day to you. At the time of my writing the script for this audio essay, it seems a certainty that Keir Starmer's Labour Party will win handily the next general election to be held in the United Kingdom. Of course, there is no such thing as certainty in politics, and particularly not when Keir Starmer and his party appear to have won their present popularity off the back of their not being Conservatives, a trait you could argue is ever fluid. But certainty and absolutes aside, the aggregate polling website Electoral Calculus currently predicts them to receive just over 44% of the vote, winning them, thanks to the strength and stability of the British electoral system of first past the post, 453 seats. Not dissimilarly, yet a little more pessimistically, the nowcast of the website Principal Fish predicts them nearly 43% of the vote and 416 seats, a seat number greater by 51 than that which Mr Johnson's Conservatives were able to win nearly 5 years ago. If I am to be blunt, a Labour majority government, specific details aside, looks an inevitability. This victorious Labour Party ought by rights to put an end to Conservative mismanagement, to fix the ravages of austerity, though not the 300,000 excess deaths that austerity has caused, to fund the NHS to the point that it can capably and comfortably handle the patient load, and to renationalise all of the failing infrastructure the Tories have long thought better to leave to the private sector. Mr Starmer, with the support of his supermajority government, ought to serve a minimum of a breezy 5 years as Prime Minister, likely with another 5 to follow. However, the Labour Party is burdened with rather a significant flaw, in my mind, that of unity, or as I would do better to put it, disunity. Think of it this way. It is October or perhaps November of this year, 2024, and Starmer has won. All has continued as we presently expect it to, and he has made little of a personality for himself, nor said much, nor done much. Yet, nonetheless, he and his party have won. How, then, have they done so, aside from their greatest aforementioned trait of not being Conservatives? By presenting a united front, by rallying behind their leader, dealing swiftly with unpleasant scandals, perhaps kicking another MP or two from the party, and not airing in public the immense disagreements held, or that have gone grudgingly unspoken, behind closed doors. The Labour Party cannot crack, and it has not. The Labour Party cannot show a sign of weakness for the newspapers and current government to exploit, and it has not. It cannot touch anything that might once have been thought standard left-wing policy for fear of attracting the dislike of a vocal few publications, and it has not. This is how it has won the 2024 general election, if indeed it has. In truth, the Labour Party is a broad coalition, one that I believe is growing only broader with time. And there are parties around the globe where such large tent organisations see tremendous success. Take the American Democratic Party, which currently controls the presidency, Senate, and likely will control the House again soon enough. And yet, curiously, the Labour Party insists upon this big tent being led from one position within it, and only one. Whomever leads it, their values akin to the part of the tent from which they themselves originate, controls the party policy and direction. Understandably so, to a degree, but they are compelled to take no input from any other region of the party. That is exactly the reason that Jeremy Corbyn, a mere 5 years ago, led a progressive social democratic movement, and why now Keir Starmer leads a neoliberal, bunched about the centre, nondescript mass. As the party pulls from one direction to the other, those at either end, or indeed at either end of the centre, grow ever more pleased or frustrated. They might lash out against their leader of the day, or they might praise them. In the recent past, lashing out has led to the impression being given that not even the Labour Party wants the Labour Party to win, for if it was a party with belief in its own success, why would so many of its MPs be seen not to toe the line? Dissent and disagreement shows the party up. It does not project strength nor stability, nor does it present to the public a group itching to work together and govern. Hence, after defeat after defeat after defeat, we arrive at Keir Starmer's approach, to never say much at all, to never show to the public much opinion on anything, lest it should prove terribly popular, and to try to keep your house in order. There is only so long, in my mind, that he can successfully manage to do this for. Gaza and Israel have threatened already to split his party, but I do not think they will in the long term. I think that he can make it to the election, and I think that he can win it. That said, I would not be unduly surprised if all boils over beforehand, but boil over it will, at some point, over some issue that cannot be dealt with indecision and refusing to say much. There will come a point where the leftward wing of his party cannot accept another praise of Margaret Thatcher, or booting out of an MP, or firing of a particular cabinet member for rather a vapid reason. This, then, is what I think to be the Labour Party's most pressing flaw, a ticking time bomb that will go off: disunity. Oh, the party will retain its MPs, and they will serve their electoral term or two, but it will implode, and be thought unworthy and unable of governance for another decade and a half, during which the Conservatives will do God knows how much damage to the country. Who could have thought, when David Cameron first became Prime Minister, that by the time the Conservatives left office, the issue of the day would be deportation to Rwanda being too soft a policy? The solution sounds counterintuitive, and the Labour Party will not do it. It will implode, lose an election, lose another, perchance implode again, and then the solution I propose may end up occurring, but they will not choose it for themselves, not while it comes to them in the form of a choice. The solution I propose is deliberate and managed breakup, a Labour divorce, with Canada and its politics as the example to follow. As a mostly English-speaking nation of tens of millions of people, as a sizable economy and a liberal nation, Canada compares very well to Britain, but I choose it in particular for its having the same wonderful system of electing its politicians as we do, first past the post. First past the post, if I might say a word on it, tends to crush political opposition beyond 2 or perhaps 3 parties. No other can succeed. No other can win not merely enough votes, but enough votes in all the right places to succeed. But in Canada, that happens, in spite of first past the post. The Liberal Party, occupying the centre to centre-left spot on the political spectrum, has governed Canada for much of its history, and yet in 2011 was reduced to a mere 34 MPs. It wasn't even the official opposition, but 4 years later it was returned to power with a majority government, despite having had before that victory fewer MPs than the Scottish National Party currently count amongst their ranks. The New Democratic Party, the centre-left to left-wing party, became the official opposition after that 2011 election, having itself jumped from 36 to 103 MPs, with the centre-right to right-wing Conservatives forming government. So too in Canada are there the Green Party, presently with 2 MPs, and the centre-left Bloc Québécois with 32. Perhaps there is a case to be made for Canadian voters being less entrenched in their views and party loyalties, with this allowing for such rapid changes in seat count, but I think party structure plays a key role too, and this is what I would advise the Labour Party to emulate. As I have said, Canada has a centrist, vaguely centre-left bloc, the Liberals. They, in policy and direction, are very similar to Mr. Starmer and the current form of the British Labour Party. They tend to be very successful, and although any poll watchers will know them to be in dire straits at the moment, by God they will be back very quickly after being defeated if they are at the next election. They are coherent, they are straightforward, and though they flit a little with time, they continue to occupy the same position upon the political spectrum. They might have flirted as something with the hard centre, or a little more with the centre-left, but they have not reinvented themselves every few years, depending upon their leader. Distinctly, the British Labour Party has done exactly this, as I have said. They are not a coherent, united bloc, their direction mappable with simplicity over the years, however hard they try to present themselves so. There are wings to the Labour Party, and speaking very broadly, they are as follows: the hard left, that is to say the Corbyn wing; the cooperatives, who are jointly members of both the Labour Party and the Cooperative Party. These occupy a more social democratic position, and the centre, which perhaps you could break down into hard centre and centre-left, but I shall just call the centre, the Blairist, Starmerite bulk of the party, the bit that most resembles the Canadian Liberals. 3 distinct chunks, all in disagreement, all disunited, and all unable to stand in coalition for very long. Then don't, I say. Follow the Canadian lead and be separate parties. The cooperative section of the party is already a separate party. Its 27 MPs just happen by electoral tradition to be dual members of both it and the Labour Party at once. Formally separate, I implore you, Labour. Be distinct entities with your own leaders and your own policies. Be consistent every election, each of you, and show the electorate that as distinct entities you can still work together as separate parties. This would leave us, then, with a centrist to centre-left bloc, which would do very well to merge with the centrist to centre-left Liberal Democrats. This combined bloc would hold the bulk of all current Labour MPs and the Lib Dems. Perhaps the group would be termed the Liberal Labour Party. The Cooperative Party, the Social Democratic wing, could carry on with the same name and the same policies, but it could make more of an impact standing alone, without fear of rocking the wider Labour Party boat. So too, lastly, could the hard left stand alone, though for numbers they might stick together with the cooperatives. People Before Profit, to borrow the Irish label, they could term themselves, or the British Socialist Party, or Momentum, for the activist group with the same name. These three separate parties could work together on every issue if they so wanted, and if unity so happened to emerge, they could have in place electoral alliances with one another, agreements to not contest a certain number of each other's seats. They could enter into formal coalitions with one another after general elections, or supply and confidence agreements, but they need not be the same formal party. As separate entities with separate goals and clearer, more consistent policies and objectives, it is my sincere belief that the Liberal Labour Party, the Cooperative Party, and the Hard Left would collectively amass far more of the vote, perhaps north of 55% of the vote in a favourable year, than the Labour Party in its current form manages to. Fewer voters would have to hold their nose, as it were, to compromise when voting, for they would be given by a greater number of parties a greater choice, a greater number of political vehicles collectively able to better represent them and their beliefs. With this as well, it is my hope that political apathy would lower, and those who don't vote would feel not compelled to, but able to cast a ballot for someone and something they believe in. Again, look to Canada. The Liberal Party at the last election won almost 33% of the vote. The New Democratic Party, think of them as our cooperatives and the hard left in one, won nearly 18% of the vote. A majority of Canadian voters wanted either the centre to centre-left party or the centre-left to left-wing party, and now the two are working together in government, not in formal coalition, but with the NDP aiding the Liberals via supply and confidence in return for key policy moves. The NDP, via these means, and with only 18% of the public support, have just secured for Canadians a new dental care package. Small parties can achieve major victories, even within first-past-the-post. Canada and its multi-party system shows that even when burdened with first-past-the-post, democracy can work well and represent all at once many different strands of public opinion, surely leading, as I have said, to lower political apathy. But perhaps that is mere wishful thinking. I know it is not perfect, and I know that there are many frustrated Canadians, but with well-structured parties, with distinct goals and clear policies, and without the constant confusing darting to the left or right of one of the country's largest parties, there need not be absolute unity around a certain person and part of the big tent, for fear of otherwise inciting newspaper attacks, or for fear of crushing electoral loss to a dangerous power. Disagreements may be had and aired even in public, when there is not the same fear of your electoral leads slipping away into the dust and the Conservatives winning again. Split the Labour Party into distinct entities and they will win on their own more combined support than the current Labour Party does. Yes, there will have to be compromise amongst them, and the negotiations for supply and confidence will be much more complex than if they were all simply members of one party, but Parliament will better represent Britain and the distinct views within its centre and centre-left, and it will keep the drunk driver, namely the Tories, far away from the car that in this analogy is Britain. Split the Labour Party and do away with its most pressing flaw, disunity. Let it be disunited, because it always will be, no matter its leader. Formalise its disunity and capitalise upon it. But that's just how I see the matter. Goodbye.